The intent of the session is to have more of an interaction in terms of understanding the kind of interview questions which you would have faced in an interview, and I can try to help with the answers, the probable better answer, so that you will have an understanding when you go to an interview in the future. So it will help you out. So this layers generally, any interview would like to understand from you what are those, your under what is your understanding in terms of the data flow. Like you may say that you have an understanding of an how the data flows in an application side, but when it comes to the back end of it, how the complete data flow from the application database to reporting, I mean to the data warehouse and then to your reporting, you should have an understanding. So interview would like to understand the architecture of your data warehouse data flow. So generally, when I say that, I mean anybody, if they ask, this is where you have to start. You have to give remember to give talk about staging, landing layer, staging layer, and your data marts and the reporting layers. And in between, you can even talk about the ODS part. So these are the main things which generally interview would look for an answer from candidates. So he will even go deeper into that, in a staging area. What are those uh, the precautions you will take care, and how you will validate all those questions will come for sure. But yeah, I mean this is the area where you have to focus more. Okay. And in a staging area, let me give you a few more questions on staging area. So the first and foremost is, in the staging area, he will also try to understand your knowledge on how you are handling the incremental load. Okay. Then when he will not directly ask you what is SCD1, SCD type 2, type 3 questions. He will generally, that era is already gone. I mean, we are way ahead of time. Like there are people who are developer turning into ETL testing now. So those questions will not be asked directly. So he will put across his questions in terms of how are you handling the incremental load, and what is your understanding. He will try to gauge your understanding of an incremental load. So basically what happens in an incremental load is, you see, data which comes in will be an updated record. You will always have a record which is already there in the data warehouse, right? So now you get an updated record from your source system. So then you should always talk about, I'll the incremental load will be handled with an SCD type 2 kind of a scenario, where you will basically you will capture that record into a kind of an modified record with another record, whereas you are also keeping a historical record as well as the modified record you will be keeping in the. So with the SCD type 2, basically you will have a column which says active column, as another column which says active, then whether it is yes or no. So yes, when you say yes, that becomes your active record. So that kind of a validation you have to do. So when the data comes from source to an stage with an incremental record, you need to validate that whether I am getting an updated record in my data warehousing with a change of status for that column. Okay. And he'll also try to understand, how are you controlling this deduplication part. So uh, deduplication generally, it goes in a way that you are uh, so from a source system, that is where this landing layer comes into picture. You are ensuring you are passing only the records which are kind of a unique record. Basically, you are not taking the entire dump, whatever is already present in that layer. You are ensuring you are removing that and just taking the new set of records. The old record which is already there with the same information, you don't need to take it again into that. It necessarily increases your uh, the size of the landing layer. So that is where you can control it. So that is one point which generally they will ask in an interview in terms of your understanding of the CD, what you call the deduplication and uh, deduplication part. So, uh, so dedupe generally the questions will be more of a how will you ensure dedupe is you are taking care of a dedupe. So and how are you testing it from an testing point of view? Okay. Yeah. Any question on this? Okay. Let's go into the next part. So the other important point is like I already talked about this change data capture, right? So uh, so the data capture, it basically enables you to take care of the only the new records from the source system rather than loading the entire records from the source. You are you are you are taking care. I mean, it's basically a incremental load. I mean, so that is what I was trying to tell you, that it's an incremental load which through which you can control it. I mean, CDC is nothing but a an incremental load or a delta load. So you basically should have an understanding of this the words terminologies like CDC, D2, say CD type 2. These are the questions generally they will ask. Any questions? Okay, let's move to the next slide. Yeah. So I was telling about this. There is something called common key terminology, right? So this is basically like you would have already seen some of those columns like natural key, primary key, and what you call surrogate key, right? So uh, so he will also try to understand more of your understanding in terms of the natural key, right? What you mean by natural key, what you mean by surrogate key, what is primary key. They are the areas where he will try to understand. Okay. So the first question is he will try to understand. He might even ask you what is natural key. It's a the so the answer for that would be like in a key which is naturally kind of descriptor of that data. Okay. Wherein that column itself, say for example you have a data, and you will mention that there is a column called sale id. Sales is your table, and sale underscore id is the column. So that becomes a natural key for you. That shows that this particular table as uh, a, the entire record of that can be represented by the sale id, right? So that is called natural key. If you are not specified, and if you are specified it as a primary key externally, I mean when you create a table, that becomes your primary key. If there is no primary key, and that's like a natural key for you. Okay. And then the most important question generally they will ask is about the surrogate key, right? Surrogate key is nothing but like you will have a data wherein as I was telling, the type 2 CD type 2 database. I mean CD type 2 records which comes with the same cell ID, but you will have a status yes or no in the other column. So now to get that, if I don't have another column which can fetch the particular sale ID which has got an status y, then you will get into a trouble. So in that case, what you will do is you will control that with a surrogate key. Surrogate key will have a column which generates a sequential numbers to it. Okay. and then that becomes your composite. I mean, the sale ID as well as your a surrogate key will become a composite primary keys for you. Any question here?
Yes, can you give me an example of CDC and SCD type 2? What is the difference between these two?
See, okay. What happens in CDC is this CDC is a method where it enables your data extract and load only the change records into the source, from the source into your data warehouse. Basically, it is used for ensuring you have only a new or change record coming from the source into the system. Okay, I mean, it is nothing but an incremental load concept. What happens in SCD type 2, it's basically, it is like you get your data, but you change that, you also keep your uh, you also keep the old record into your uh, into the uh, into the data warehouse. When I say old record, you will be changing with a is updated column, like I was telling about, have a column where which says which is active or not. So basically you will have a start date and end date to it, with the status being y. So that becomes, you will have two records in the data warehouse. Whereas in CDC you will ensure before bringing it to the data warehouse, you will ensure you are getting a single record which is a new or a change record. Okay, yeah. So the entire mm, the intention of this session was to give answers to the queries generally you will face in an interview. So I hope you guys have understood some of those concepts here, and you can also go through our website, where we will have a separate session wherein you can get our uh, experts suggestions by you kind of attending a mock interview, wherein the experts will guide you on what is that weak areas of us. So it will help you to prepare well in your future interviews. So these experts are professionals in industry from last many. I mean, you can see the number of years each individual over there. So you can just enroll to that, and you can get a help from them. Any other questions? Okay. I hope we are good now. Uh, Please get in touch with us if you have any other further queries. And okay, thanks all for attending, and have a nice Sunday.